So welcome again to Seekers and Cynics. My name is Richard Bentley. This is Bodmin Road Church, and Seekers and Cynics is a weekly 10-minute broadcast just trying to answer questions about the Christian faith to help people to understand. And I've called last week's talk Faith But Not Blind Faith. And I was considering the fact that although there is no proof, I accept that, of God's existence, that there are nevertheless a great many things in our experience and in our universe which are suggestive of God's existence, which are evidence of God's existence. So there is evidence which supports faith. And for me, therefore, my faith is not blind faith, but it is faith that rests in some sense on a body of evidence. Yes, for me, my faith goes beyond just reason, but equally it is not unreasonable. There is nothing for me in faith that is unreasonable or anti-logic or against good science. And so then I started to ask, well, what is that evidence? What are the things that point to God's existence? So this is just a little recap, but it's worth doing given where I'm going to go. What are the things in our world that suggest God's reality? And last time I explained that the physical universe is so perfectly, and it is finely tuned for our existence, that some scientists, some physicists have said things like it looks as if the universe knew we were coming, or it looks as if we were meant to be here. And there's a thing called the anthropic principle, you can Google that, which recognizes the fact that the universe appears at least to be set up perfectly for human existence. Now, that could just be good luck, of course, but I prefer to suggest and prefer to think that it is God who has set things up that way. Because science has no causal explanation for why the universe should be just so. And I argued, therefore, that it's not unreasonable at all to suggest that there is a God who has made it just so. And that was what I was looking at last time. And in fact, the Bible expresses that argument in very simple terms in Psalm 19, where it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." Today, I want to move on from the sort of universe and the physical world to think about our human experience. And are there any pointers there? Are there any things in our experience that suggest there is something more than just matter and energy? And I would argue that there are many things that we almost take for granted within our experience that require a spiritual explanation, a God explanation. There are a number of aspects of our humanity which are not easily explained in terms of evolutionary biology. So, spirituality, which is a worldwide phenomenon in all cultures and places. Morality, the idea that there is right and wrong, which seems so embedded within us. Guilt, free will, consciousness itself, the appreciation of beauty and music, our difficulties to come to terms with death, our longing for meaning and significance, that haunting sense that there is something more to life which nothing we experience ever quite seems to fulfill. These are widespread human experiences, but they are not easily explained. And I think I've waved at you before on these talks, this New Scientist magazine, which is only about a year old, which says the laws of the universe can explain everything, except you and me. And things like consciousness and free will are not easily explained in scientific terms. How did material atoms, if that's all there is, acquire these spiritual attributes? Science has no explanation for that. Let me just take free will and zoom in on that as an example. There are some scientists and atheists, well-known atheist Sam Harris, for example, is one, who have on the basis of their atheist axioms, gone so far as to deny the reality of free will. They would argue that it is just an illusion within our experience. And actually, I would say, on the basis of their axioms, they have to be correct. If you are just a collection of material atoms, then you cannot really have free will. You cannot really be making real choices. Free will cannot be a property of matter, can it? You know, rocks don't make real choices, do they? And if really we're made of pretty much the same sort of stuff, then really we're no different in that sense from a rock or a tree. You know, the laws of physics are deterministic. There's no room for free will. But you and I experience it, don't we? We experience life as if we are making real choices that matter. Well, either therefore that's just an illusion, as the atheist argues, as Sam Harris argues, or there's something more going on. There's something else to us. There's another part to us. And your free will actually is evidence that you are a spiritual being living within a material body. We are more surely than pure matter. We are more than just atoms and energy. And the free will that we experience and take for granted is actually evidence of that. And I haven't even started yet on morality and the sense of right and wrong and our sense of spirituality. How did atoms, if that's all we are, acquire such qualities? How did atoms acquire the ability to feel guilty, for goodness sake? You know, or to be moved by art or music? Those human qualities, as far as I can see, the atheist has no explanation for in scientific terms. But they're easily understood if we accept the Bible's description of us, which says that we've been made in God's image. In other words, we are spiritual beings made in some senses to be like God and to have a relationship with him. Then my free will makes sense, and my consciousness makes sense, and my sense of right and wrong makes sense. So actually, my human experience makes much more sense in the light of a biblical framework than it does an atheist framework. And as I look at my human experience, therefore, I see reasons to believe in God. Logic suggests that it's reasonable to think that there is a spiritual being who is the source of the spiritual qualities that I experience. That I am more than just atoms, that I am different from a rock or a tree, that there is soul, that there is spirit, whichever word you prefer, and that if there is soul or spirit, then there is a God who is the source of that spiritual dimension. None of that is unreasonable. All of that is suggestive that there is a God who made this universe and ourselves within it. We'll see you next time.